Two dark-skinned people in a relationship. Two brown-skinned people in a relationship. One dark-skinned man, one brown-skinned woman. One dark-skinned woman, one brown-skinned man. One dark-skinned woman, one light-skinned man. But two light skins?
Hey, Pretty Girl Club, has anyone noticed the double standard that unambiguous black men and women, like nobody cares who they date? But if it's a light skinned woman and a light skinned man, or some sort of mixed woman and a mixed man, suddenly people want to gaslight you and then they'll say things like, you guys don't go together. And it's like, who are you to determine who goes with who? And also, it's a complete double standard. I feel like a lot of people, they don't want exotical women and exotical men to date each other because they want access to that person. So, for example, calling Steph Curry and Aisha Curry colorists, saying that, oh, they just want their babies to be light skinned or something like that. I feel like a lot of those types of comments are made out of jealousy because a lot of unambiguous black women in particular, I know that a lot of them like biracial men or mixed race men, they'll try to pretend like they don't. They'll say things like, oh, he's Chad Roan, they'll try to call a guy names and stuff like that. But in real life, a lot of unambiguous women in particular will fiend over mixed race or light skinned men with money because a lot of women think that dark skinned black men are colorist. And so I've noticed, actually, I've even heard some of them say on YouTube, oh, just be colorist back. Just be colorist back towards black men. So just only date light, bright, and white men. So I've actually heard some unambiguous YouTubers say that. I really wish I could remember that girl's name that I heard say that. But there's a pattern where if two light skinned people date each other, suddenly it's you look like siblings. I also feel like unambiguous people feel like they own us. So as exotical women, I've noticed a lot of unambiguous black men, they will talk shit if you date a non unambiguous dark skinned black man. They'll talk their crap because they feel like they have sexual ownership over you. And I've also noticed the same thing with the women as well. Making fun of if you have a boyfriend that is a fellow exotical, basically, saying things like, oh, you guys look like siblings. Are you guys related? You guys look like first cousins. And I feel like that's a brainwashing tactic because they don't want more multi generationally mixed people to procreate. They don't want to feel left out. They don't want to, because I feel like a lot of people they struggle with feeling like they're the unattractive black person. So I feel like there's kind of this stereotype where the quote unquote light skins or the MGM people or whatever, you're considered the attractive black person. So they don't want the two attractive people to get together because, you're supposed to share those genetics. That's really how it comes off. It comes off as if it is a subconscious brainwashing tactic to get you to only be attracted to unambiguous dark skinned black men and women. And if you are not, you're a colorist, texturist, featurist, you just want your kids to be light skinned. Or if they can't find anything else to say, they'll just be like, oh, you guys look like siblings. Or they will try to feminize the man. I've noticed this pattern where unambiguous black women, they will try to feminize mixed race or light skinned men. So they'll be like, oh, your boyfriend is soft, or he's a pretty boy. He probably spends more time in the mirror than you, or she's going to be paying bills. He's going to be resting in his femininity. Oh my gosh, I'm an a-hole for laughing. But no, I don't actually believe that, obviously. But I feel like this is a tactic to try to stop exotical men and women from getting together. And by the way, this is obviously a decentering men channel. I'm not telling you to go out and just sleep with exotical men. But has anybody else noticed this though? Everybody's obsessed with who exoticals are dating. They're obsessed with who we're dating. And I feel like part of it is because black men, a lot of unambiguous dark skinned black men, they want to have babies with the exotical women. And so then they get upset when they can't impregnate you, or they get upset if your boyfriend happens to have your same phenotype, or if you prefer your phenotype. Why does nobody care about the preferences of ugly people? Think about that. You don't care about the preferences of people who you find ugly. You don't care about the dating preferences of somebody you don't want. You only care about the dating preferences of those that you find attractive. Because why would they care what your partner looks like, or what type of phenotype you're sexually attracted to? Why do you care? The only reason you care is because you're sexually attracted to that type. Or you're essentially trying to cock block those two people from that phenotype getting together. And it's so funny because I've actually had, you guys know my preferences. I don't talk about my dating life or dating strategies and dating preferences online, not in public. You're going to have to go behind the paywall. If you want any sort of dating strategy content, definitely join the members page. But I've noticed that some people will literally cock block if they see that there's like an MLS man and an MLS woman who are attracted to each other or something. I've seen people, they don't want you to flirt with that person. I've personally had some women literally try to stand in front of me or sit in front of me, like in the office. They will try to sit in front of me in the conference room or like block me to make sure that I'm out of the line of sight of an MLS man. Like, I've just noticed that there is an overwhelming trend to get exotical men and women to not talk to each other. And especially if you happen to share the exact same phenotype. And then people say that you're being colorist if you want your kids to be light skinned. So it's like, okay, if I'm light skinned and I like my light skin and I want my kids to have my light skin tone, what's the difference between that and a dark skinned person wanting to have dark skinned children? Do you see the double standard? It's okay to have your preferences if you're a dark skinned black woman, but it's not okay to have a preference if you're a light skinned black woman. It's okay to want your children to share your phenotype if you're a dark skinned black man, but it's not okay to want your children to share your phenotype if you're a light skinned black man. So I've noticed people will use colorism as a way to gaslight the two of you. They'll use texturism and featureism, or they'll demasculinize the man to try to get you to like get the ick. I feel like that's what they're trying to do. They want you to get the ick towards your own phenotype because they have the ick towards their own phenotype. They don't like their own phenotype. They hate their counterpart. They think their own counterpart is ugly. And so they are shocked that you could possibly think that your own phenotype is attractive in the opposite sex. That's impossible for them because they hate themselves. So, of course, they hate unambiguous black men, just like how they hate themselves. They think that their phenotype is ugly. And so if you find your phenotype attractive in the opposite sex, they can't believe it. Or they may try to use these talking points against you, like calling you a mammy or something. Let's say he's a biracial. Let's say you have a boyfriend and he's biracial or something. People will call you a mammy, or they'll say, oh, he's Chad Roan, as if that's supposed to like make you feel insecure or something. And it's like, no, just because your guy happens to be a Tyrone, this doesn't automatically mean that like anybody who dates within their phenotype, the person is automatically bad and dusty. Because another stereotype that they try to give about light skinned black women is that you attract dusties. Only dusties like you, only 50-50 men like you, only low quality men like you. They can't believe that you could actually get what you want. And so they try to gaslight you. And I feel like that's a tactic to try to attain social power, because desirability is a huge form of social power. Just like how beauty is a form of social power, being seen as desirable in the male gaze, especially to a male centered woman, that is a huge form of social power. And so she doesn't want you to find that particular man desirable because deep down inside, she finds him desirable. And so I've noticed that there's this really big brainwashing tactic to break up light skinned men and light skinned women because they want to intermix with you. I've noticed a lot of unambiguous people, they want to intermix with you. They want your genetics. Us exotical women know this because we are the top targets to become baby mamas, because a lot of black men, they're fiending to have babies with us. They're fiending to get us pregnant. So how dare you not get impregnated by an unambiguous dark-skinned black man? How dare you choose somebody different? And I've noticed the same tactics with a lot of unambiguous women. They want to get pregnant by a light-skinned man. They want to get pregnant by a biracial man so that they can have a dark-skinned exotical baby. They want to get pregnant by an exotical man so their baby can have the pretty hair and pretty eyes. In fact, they will then go and brag about it. Oh, Exoticals United, I'm your mother, or my children look like you, or my baby daddy is biracial, or I just had a biracial son. I've heard some unambiguous black women say that they want to create mixed race sons so that they can train their mixed race sons to be sexually attracted to unambiguous black women. So it's almost like this emotional incest type of thing. And it's like, why are you even thinking about two people who are sexual partners basically being siblings? Where is your mind at? Like, why would you even say, you guys look like your brother and sister. You guys look like first cousins. You guys don't look right together. Oh, that's too much yellow. That's too much light bright. Your kids are going to be hella light skinned. They're not going to have any melanin. Your kids' eyes are going to be too light. Your kids are going to look like albinos. You guys are trying to wash out your blackness. So they want to give all of these guilting tactics. They want to literally charity date you. This is exactly what I'm talking about. People use the ism conversation because they want charity dates. People will use your skin tone or your partner's skin tone if you guys are both lighter skinned because they want you to feel guilty and stupid about dating each other. How dare you be that attractive and date one another? You need to share your attractiveness with everybody else here in the unambiguous community. It's because they feel this sexual entitlement to you. You have been my sexual fantasy since I was a teenager. Your phenotype has been my fantasy since I was a little kid. You look like my childhood TV crush or my celebrity crush or whoever. So how dare you choose a light-skinned person and not an unambiguous dark-skinned black person? So it's like this sexual entitlement. It's like this romantic entitlement. And then people say, oh, well, it's still possible that your child won't look like you. Why do you care about what two light-skinned people's child is going to look like? Why are you all up in their ovaries? Why are you all up in their sperm bank? Why are you all up in their future children's phenotype business? Like, why do you care who somebody wants to have a baby with? Unless, of course, you wish you were the person that could have a baby with a light-skinned person. Hence why you're divesting or going after all of these other races of men and women who all have a lighter complexion than you. But has anyone noticed they only say this to light-skinned people? I don't see people saying it to dark-skinned couples. You guys look like brother and sister. I don't see people saying that as much as they say it specifically to a couple where both people are of a lighter skin tone. And then people will say, usually if you prefer one complexion over another, it's for colorist reasons. Why do you care about somebody's preferences, though, if you don't want that person? Why do you care what a light-skinned black man wants if you don't want light-skinned black men? Why do you care what a mixed-race man wants if you don't want a mixed man? You wouldn't care anyway, right? Especially if he's colorist, right? So why are you going around calling people colorists because they're both light-skinned and they're dating each other? And then I've noticed that some people, they'll be like, oh, all of light-skinned people's relationships are only based on skin tone. Like, are you serious right now? So there's no way that a light-skinned man or woman could have any positive personality traits. There's no way that they could be genuinely attracted to one another. Oh no, they're only dating just so they can like be light-skinned together and have light-skinned babies. They're only dating because they're trying to preserve colorism. So you need to date me. It's that same rhetoric of you need to date a dark-skinned black person in order to prove you're not colorist. Do you see what I mean about wanting sympathy dates? And also, it's like people choose their partners based on so many different factors. Like when it comes to a person's physical, what they like or whatever, there are people who like tall guys, tall or short women, skinny or big women. There are people who like dark-skinned women. And it's not a problem if you like any of those other groups, but suddenly, if you prefer a light-skinned woman or if you prefer a light-skinned man, you're automatically a colorist. And you need to prove that you're not colorist by giving a chance to a dark-skinned, unambiguous person. Another talking point that I've heard is that anytime your preference aligns with white supremacy, it's colorist. Okay, so then that would mean that all divestors are colorist then. By that same logic, if you prefer anything white, bright, and light, then that would make you a white supremacist then. So then who's the real colorist? It was so funny. I was on Lipstick Alley and somebody was like, they only prefer light skin because they're conditioned to believe that thinking dark skin is ugly. Okay, so you just exposed yourself. The reason that people talk shit about two light skins dating is because it makes them feel ugly. It makes them feel left out. Oh, you didn't pick me. I feel ugly. The two light skins are dating each other, so now there's nobody attractive left for me. I am relegated to the unambiguous dating pool. And it's like, since when does a person's sexual organs have to become a political tool? Like, why do I have to use my body or give you my body in order to prove my solidarity with you? Do you see the incredible entitlement? Do you see the extreme lust and fetishization? And I feel like whenever unambiguous black women call light skinned men sassy, I feel like that's actually just black women trying to humble light skinned men. Because from what I've seen, I've gone to an HBCU, I've lived in multiple black cities. Even though they'll try to humble them, it's very similar to dark skinned black men, how they try to humble light skinned women. They'll try to make comments and say we're mediocre or whatever, or they'll say things like you're a waste of yellow, or oh, you're light skinned, but you have nappy hair though, or other ignorant comments. It's a humbling tactic to hide their attraction yet inferiority towards the light skinned woman. So I've noticed a lot of unambiguous black women will do the same thing. They'll be like, oh, I don't date light skinned men because they're sassy. Like, I've literally seen unambiguous black women brag about how they don't date light skinned men, but then the moment a light skinned man in real life gives them any attention, oh, she's fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. In fact, I've actually asked some of my light skinned male friends in the past. I no longer believe in male and female friendships, but in the past, I've actually asked some of my friends and family members, hey, have you ever been fetishized too by dark skinned black women? And they'll be like, oh my God, yeah. Like, they try to throw themselves at me. They say we'd have pretty babies. So I really feel like calling light-skinned men feminine, it's oftentimes just a humbling tactic from dark-skinned black women who feel inferior to his light-skinned privilege. And sometimes I feel like some unambiguous people secretly feel like a light-skinned person doesn't want them, or like a light-skinned person secretly prefers another light-skinned person. So when they see two light-skinned people together, they're like, oh shit, my biggest insecurity is confirmed. You know what I mean? Like, my biggest fear is confirmed. I really am at the bottom because the two light skins noticed each other. And in fact, I've even seen online unambiguous women say things like, oh, I know if a light skinned woman is around, I'm not going to have a high chance with this guy. And so I also feel like if people see two light skinned people together, it kind of confirms their inferiority complex, which is, oh, I really was at the bottom. This person only dated me because there were no other light skins available. Or they dated me, but they secretly wanted a light skin. Because there are a lot of unambiguous people who truly do believe that the lighter, the better, and the more privileged you are. And so people feel like it's not fair. That's not fair. You can't have all that pretty privilege in one relationship. You can't have all that light skin privilege in one relationship. You can't have all that social power in one relationship. So it's almost as if these types of people see you as a social power couple. And I've also noticed some light skinned men who will just sleep with unambiguous women if they can't get a light skinned woman that they prefer. I'm not saying that that's all light skinned men, but I have noticed that pattern as well because I've asked. I've asked multiple light skinned guys that I've known, like, why do you sleep with these women? I've literally heard some light skinned men say that they won't have a baby with an unambiguous mono dark skinned black woman, but that they will sleep with them because they throw themselves at them so hard. And obviously, this is why I tell you guys, just decenter men in general, because most men, they're just going to sleep with whoever throws themselves at them. But I feel like there are some delusional, unambiguous women who genuinely believe that they can sleep their way into a man's faithfulness. Those are the types of women who kind of lead with their sexuality and stuff like that. And I've also been around light skinned men who will sleep with unambiguous women as revenge on light skinned women. I've encountered that dynamic before as well. I've actually had a light skinned man tell me before that he actually prefers light skinned black women or mixed race women, but that we're too stuck up and too bougie and like think our shit don't stink. And so as revenge, he only sleeps with unambiguous dark skinned black women because he feels like they will love him better and be more faithful and loyal and more down for him. And he felt like they would do more stuff for him compared to a stuck up light skinned woman. Like I've heard light skinned men say stuff like that. Maybe we should talk about this. I think I might make an episode in the Patreon about this or on the members page, because I've also noticed a power struggle between kind of the dusty light skinned men against mixed race or light skinned women. And I also feel like black women pressure light skinned men into lying or saying, oh, yeah, I prefer you, or I like women of all shades, because I know that we get that pressure as MLS women. We definitely receive that pressure from unambiguous black men. A lot of black men, they'll try to pressure us into including them in our dating pool. Some do, some don't. But I've noticed the same pressure towards light skinned men, where a lot of women will ask that guy, do you like chocolate? Do you like dark skinned women? Very, very similar to how they treat white men. Like, do you like dark skinned women? Oh, okay, then you're a colorist. And it's like, how is somebody with light skin dating you? How is that going to help you? How is me sleeping with you going to help you in life? How is that going to help the collective of unambiguous black men? It's not. But I've definitely noticed the extreme cock blocking, though, when it comes to two light skins in particular. I mean, I've noticed where people, they don't even want you to look at each other. They don't even want you to flirt with each other. They definitely don't want you to date or marry or have kids together, because it's almost as if two light skins dating, you're acknowledging each other's existence. You're acknowledging the fact that you two share a similar experience. You're acknowledging the fact that you two have a similar personal reality and that it brings you together. And I think that's really what people don't like. They don't like the idea of light skins creating a community of their own without unambiguous dark skinned black people. I think that's really what it is. They don't like the idea of communities being created where unambiguous dark skinned people are excluded. So if you have a light skinned couple, that's potentially going to create a family of light skinned people. So that's an even bigger community of light skins. So they don't like the idea of a light skinned community being built. That's really what it is. And has anyone noticed that a light skinned person saying they prefer light skins, that makes people more offended than a dark skinned person saying they prefer light skins? Like if you're light and you also prefer light skins, people are going to view you as being super colorist. Versus if you're a dark skin, they'll be like, oh, you're just a regular dark skin colorist. But I've noticed if two light skinned people say, oh, yeah, we both prefer to be around light skins, oh, no, you're a super paper bag test upholding Creole colorist. Usually that's the stereotype. I've noticed that people love making Creoles the face of colorism. It's really annoying, but I've definitely noticed that pattern. And honestly, I think that a part of that stereotype could potentially come from those rumors back in the day where they said that Creoles would like sleep with their siblings and shit. I'm not saying that that happened, but it's like people would say that Creoles committed incest so that they could keep their skin tones and preserve it. So I think that that's a part of it as well. They're basically giving you the colorist Creole stereotype. And I also feel like some unambiguous people, they rely on the concept of opposites attracting because they don't like their own counterparts. They don't like anyone similar to them. So they rely on hopefully receiving exotic privilege from white men or white women or Latina women. So when they see a light skinned person rejecting that and saying, no, I don't want to be exotified, I don't have to be exotified in order to get in a relationship, that challenges their internalized viewpoints because they're like, wait a minute, I thought I had to be viewed as exotic in order to get a relationship, not being viewed as similar, because two light skins, you look similar. So how dare you be so privileged that you can get into a relationship without having exotic privilege because you're both light skinned? He doesn't view you as exotic in the same way as he would somebody else. Or, you're not opposite enough from him. I thought that the only way to get a relationship was by being viewed as different. but you're proving me wrong. You're challenging my internalized beliefs about what it takes to get in a relationship. So I think that's another trigger for unambiguous people. It's realizing, oh shit, you actually can date people who are similar to you without having to rely on your skin tone looking different from theirs. That's another way that you're basically sticking it to the people with inferiority complexes, because you're proving to them, like, no, you can have the same skin tone as somebody and just, date your counterpart or just be attracted to your counterpart. You don't have to use your skin tone difference as a form of social power. So that's another cognitive dissonance that you're bringing up just by dating a person of your complexion. People feel like you owe it to them to at least try to date a dark-skinned black person. That's how it comes off. Like, as the privileged light skins, you guys owe it to your unambiguous black community to try to date unambiguous black people first. Has anyone else noticed that? And I've also noticed where light-skinned savior women, they will be like, oh, I don't like light-skinned men, and they're lying. They're just saying it because they want to appease unambiguous black women. Similar to that woman in the video where she was like, I lied and said my hair was a wig. I've noticed that some light-skinned women, they'll say this performative thing like, oh, I only date white men. Basically, I date whoever unambiguous black women date. That's what a lot of light-skinned women will do in order to pander to unambiguous black women. They'll be like, oh, okay, you date black men that are dark-skinned? Me too. I don't date any light, bright men. I don't date men my complexion. Oh, you're divested? You date non-black men? Oh, yeah, me too. And then a few months later, if a light-skinned guy gives her attention, suddenly she's with him or they're dating. So that's another dynamic I've noticed when it comes to light-skinned women. And then I've noticed that light-skinned men sometimes have a stereotype that light-skinned women don't date them because they don't put us on the pedestal like dark-skinned black men. But I don't view that as dark-skinned men putting us on a pedestal. I view that as being fetishized. So I don't want to be fetishized. But I've noticed that some light-skinned men, they get pissed off at light-skinned women because they're like, oh, you're just used to having your ass kissed by unambiguous black men. They're doing that same inferiority complex thing because obviously we know that men want women more than women want men in general. We know that women have the social power in the dating market. Women actually do control the access to sex and marriage, despite what men say, because men are the ones who have to do the proposing and buying the ring. The women can say no. You can still say no after he's done all that. So women actually are the ones that control the access to the sex and the marriage and stuff. So I've noticed that even sometimes light-skinned men will have an inferiority complex towards light-skinned women because it's almost as if you are light-skinned 2.0 as the woman, because you actually are feminine and all this other stuff, and you get to relish in your femininity. But another reason why I feel like some people are so shocked when two light skins date is because there are not a lot of light skinned, mixed race black people in general. And so it's pretty rare for you to see two light skinned people not only dating, but then like kind of being in the same vicinity, going through the whole dating process, becoming boyfriend, girlfriend. So I think that's another part of it as well. It's because this phenotype is not the majority in the black community to begin with. And so you've got two people who have a rare phenotype coming together. And so I think that's another reason why some people kind of notice it a little bit more. But this all just plays into the obsession with light-skinned people. How light-skinned are you? Are you a red bone? Are you a yellow bone? Are you white passing? Are you high yellow? Oh, he's lighter than you. She's lighter than you. All this obsession, this all just plays into how much people secretly want to be light-skinned, or they want their kids to be light-skinned because they're divesting. So they want their kids to be mixed race, or they want their kids to be dark-skinned exoticals as well. And then for the people who say, you only got married because you don't want dark babies, what does that tell me about what you think about dark babies? This is no different from when colorism content creators say, I hope you have a dark-skinned baby as karma. Dating a light-skinned person, that's not going to prevent your child from being dark-skinned. It's like, why is everything about preventing dark skin? That shows me what you think of dark skin. And why is it that non light skinned people swear up and down that they are experts when it comes to light skinned people? Has anyone else thought about that? It's usually non light skinned people who have the most to say about light skinned people. And I was looking on Lipstick Alley and somebody was like, I always hear light skinned women saying they don't want light skinned men, but I don't think it's self hate because I've never met a light skinned woman who hated her light skin. And yeah, that's because she doesn't hate her light skin, most likely. And she's only saying that because she knows that if she were to say, oh, I think light skin is attractive, you're going to take it as she's being a colorist. So it's like, who else can she say she prefers? Light skinned women have no choice but to say, we prefer whoever unambiguous women date. Because in a lot of cases, people have called us colorists. That's the negative stereotype about exoticals, basically. We're considered colorists automatically. And I've also noticed a resentment between light skinned men and women because I've heard some people say that they feel like there's too much competition for the other one. So it's like if you're both the prize, then like who's the prize? There's going to be a power struggle in the relationship. That's another stereotype I've heard about light skinned couples or about why light skinned people don't date one another. I've also noticed that if two light skinned people are in a relationship, then there's no dark skin, unambiguous op to spy on your relationship as well. Because I've noticed that there's this obsession with monitoring light skinned spaces, monitoring exoticals, monitoring mixed people and biracials. What do they think? What do they do in their spare time? What do they do in their sex lives? Who do they sleep with? And so, if you have a potential family unit where there is no dark skin, unambiguous person in it, then people feel excluded. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.